like, don't forget.
I know. Okay, I always see the little light up there now. It says recording. Oh, okay, so we are going to wrap up a few things today. As I had said, I'm going to upload this tonight, and we will not officially be meeting face-to-face or Zoom-to-face until next Tuesday. So enjoy your long Memorial weekend, and know that you do have to do some studying, but remember that moving ahead is the way we do this in summer school. So we finished most of chapter 3, and I'm sort of wishing that we had just gone ahead and bit the bullet and did it, but we did not. We start to see some things happening. I did not recreate the entire drawing up here, but you have that fabulous picture of it, of the different energy systems. This was from Dr. Priest's class, so I don't want you to be worrying what was on the board behind me, because it means nothing for you. So if you look back to that picture that we have of all of those things, and I have a little picture here of it. I don't know how this will work, because I'm willing to try anything. I took a picture, and of course, I sent it to all of you, sort of as just as a little reminder. We have all paid attention to all of this now, and we have it seared and burned in our brain. So pretend like that beautiful drawing is written on the board behind me again as you look at your own copy. Because look at this, Siri's trying to help. Okay. All right. So I'm actually flipping all the way over to page 56 in your book. And really, it kind of starts on 55, because really what I want to talk about is over here when we were actually talking about oxygen uptake, and really when we kind of reach our lactate threshold. One of the things that we need to know whenever we participate in any form of exercise, whether it be short-term, mid-range, or especially when we're doing aerobic training and even some glycolytic training, we always end up in an oxygen deficit. So when we're in an oxygen deficit, our bodies scream for millions of ways to help resaturate those tissues with oxygen so that we can continue to grow and continue to recover. And so in that right-hand column on page 57, it talks about us being in the total cost of energy and exercise. We have to remember that everything that we do is in energy form, energy in, energy out. And so we have to replete not only those calories that we burned, but we also have to replete that oxygen to help refill that. And we actually call this the excess post-oxygen consumption. And if you'll flash back to one of our first days in class, I actually told you about Epoch. And Epoch is what happens after exercise, where our body starts to try to return to homeostasis. And I like to say that there's no place like homeostasis. Our body wants to be in this neutral state of balance. So one of the things that are responsible factors for Epoch are listed at the bottom of page 58 on that chart. And it talks about why we go into Epoch, because the intensity of aerobic exercise does that greatest oxygen deficit. But here's when we see it's the replenishment of oxygen to blood in the muscles. We see that this actually helps us resynthesize that ATP, creatine phosphate. Because remember, we're always having that action and that effect with the dumping of the ATP and the refilling all the time. So have you ever been to where you've been on a pretty intense workout, and then all of a sudden you jump in the shower real quick, you put your clothes on real quick, and you get to where you are going, you sit down and you're still sweating? Your body is actually in Epoch when it is doing that. It's trying to cool down your core temperature, because your core temperature is up because of those minute ventilations and that circulation. You're probably going to have an increased rate of triglycerides trickling into the system, which is great, because that means you are utilizing that stored body fat. You're also going to have increased protein turnover, or increase because of muscle cell damage. So one of the things you need to be sure is that in that post-exercise phase of about an hour, you need to consume food. Something that has a little bit of carbohydrate and then something with protein in it so that you can help restore those muscles and let your body be saturated again. And then here's what we know. There are changes in energy efficiency during recovery. You have to allow your body to recover if you expect it to go again. So that's some cool things about Epoch. And sometimes that window, it might be 30 minutes to an hour that you really need to let your body cool down and return to homeostasis. So now, and you've already heard me say this, and this is a refresh of on page 59, we know that to be terrific, you must be specific in your training. And we have to design training programs that either match our phosphagen athlete, our glycolytic athlete, or our oxidative athlete. So one of the things we want to think of is interval training. And interval training is a way of using work to rest ratios. And in your book, in the right-hand column of page 59, it actually describes a study that was done by some great researchers. And it showed that if we utilized interval training properly, we really could increase endurance. We could increase longevity. We could increase proper energy output simply because we're either allowing ATP to resaturate, we're either using muscle glycogen or liver glycogen as the right fuel. So that's kind of a neat study to read if you'd like to put that in your brain for extra use. So when we talk about interval training, again, it's work to rest ratios. And we think about high intensity interval training. We live in a world right now where we actually refer to that as HIIT training, HIIT. So that's when we call that. Now, there's lots of things that we can do to keep HIIT training interesting and fun and all of these things. So you can change the intensity of the active portion. You can change the duration of the active portion. You can change the intensity of the rest, the duration of the rest, the number of cycles, the number of sets, the amount of rest time, or the mode. Which means, for instance, let's just say let's say I'm working with doing jump rope, and I'm doing box jumps, and let's just say I'm doing overhead push press. Okay, the first way that I set this up, I might set it up to where I'm going 1 minute of jump rope. Okay, let's just say I end up doing, and then I rest for 1 minute, and I do 20 box jumps and rest for 1 minute, and then maybe I do 10 push press, that would be reps, and then I rest for 1 minute. That would be one complete way that we could make this exact same mode work with different energy systems. Now, another way that we could do it is, and I'm sorry my marker's so crummy, I'll go grab another one in the interval. Let's just say for jump ropes, instead of going for 1 minute, what if I all of a sudden worked for speed and I did 50 jump ropes and counted them? And then I rested for 30 seconds, okay? And then let's just say I only did 10 box jumps, rested for 30 seconds. And then with push press, what if I actually really went crazy with this and went for a full minute of push press? And again, what if I said I'm going to do this whole set 4 times? Workouts like this kind of keep our body guessing as far as how much energy, which energy system, and then how much epoch we can actually start to get in. So again, this new style of HIIT training has really been great for us to do some interesting things. This is a way to not only train competitive athletes, but this is a great way to train some of your clients that might need new, interesting. This HIIT training really does something that some other workouts don't do, and it actually amplifies the fun factor. And we have to remember that we have to keep training in a way that's fun and challenging for the body as well, if we really want this to be the best situation. Okay, so now another kind of training is mentioned on page 61. Page 61 talks about combination training. And whenever we're involved in combination training, we are actually training on the anaerobic side and the aerobic side in the same workout. Now, this is not cross training, this is combination training. And combination training really is good for some athletes, but not good for others. So let's just say I take my aerobic athlete, my long distance runner, and all of a sudden, let's just say that 2 days a week, I did their running, their distance portion of the program. I believe that we recorded this already and talked about it. I think it was Sarah that was bringing to the attention that her coach had them do sprints and had them do long distance. That's a great way to think about combination training. That's great for the type 1 athlete. Now, one of the things that we need to think about on the negative aspect of this is, if I take my vertical jumper or if I take my high performance intensity athlete and I put them out on a 2-mile run, you have to remember I am decreasing their force potential in their sport, which means I'm actually making them less efficient and effective at that sport. So we don't ever want to do combination training for the type 2 athlete, but with the type 1 athlete, it can actually increase their performance. I also like to think that combination training is great for most typical training clients that you might have if you're going into the personal training world, because what this type training does is it allows you to work every single muscle fiber spectrum. And I think you can do this, again, with older people. You can do this with younger people. You can do this with just about anybody that their intensity level would be appropriate for. So combination training, bad for the type 2 athlete, great for the type 1 athlete, and also great for most personal training clients that you're going to have for longevity. HIIT training, interval training, fabulous for all type athletes. Okay, so I'm going to end this session so that we can sort of stay with the chapters. I'm going to go open up a new video link, and then we'll jump in with chapter 2 and rock that out. Okay, see you in a minute. Bye. Hey, Annie, I'm going to send you a new link.